Hello, I'm the Miami Autism Dad, Victor Antunes, the inclusive Miami Realtor, and this is the Autism Podcast at Miami's Community Newspapers. Today, I am with Katherine Magnoli. She is a disability advocate and author. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Victor. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me about your disability work and your writing.
So my disability work, I like to actually call inclusion advocacy
Okay.
because I don't just focus on people with wheelchairs or people with mobility issues. I like to fight for all of us, especially the autistic community, which is how I got started as an advocate.
Why especially the autistic community?
So back in 2009, I had the honor of being a volunteer teacher assistant at a school called Kesher LD in Aventura, Florida. And it was mostly targeted for children within the autism spectrum. And the moment that I wheeled into the classroom, I was greeted by smiling faces and kids that were so excited to meet a new volunteer. And I just loved it. And it really helped me in so many ways, not only become a stronger educator, but it helped me accept my own disability when I saw them navigate through life and how they handled some acts of bullying that were brought upon them by their typical minded peers who honestly, I hate saying that typical minded because I think that the autistic mind is so unique and so special. So I think it should be honored more. But they navigated these acts of bullying in such a strong way. And it really inspired me because I had been a victim of bullying growing up in a small town where there was very little diversity. And it just really helped me. And so from there, I decided that I wanted to educate the the typical minded community or the non-disabled community about disability. And I did this by writing children's books called The Adventures of Cat Girl.
That's so nice. And I bought one in Spanish for my daughter. Let's go back to the bullying. As a little kid, I had an older brother, so I didn't suffer bullying. So it's something that I really can't wrap my mind around. So if you were talking to a little girl, little boy who's suffering bullying, what would be your words of advice?
I would honestly tell them that number one, it gets better. And number two, it will start to get better when you accept yourself. Because I think that that is a huge step in becoming a person with a disability, is just owning it and realizing that our supposed weaknesses are our strengths, which is a theme that I write about throughout all my stories in The Adventures of Cat Girl and my other character, Pete the Private Eye. For example, Cat Girl, who is a superhero in a wheelchair, she uses her wheelchair as a way to navigate through the world, number one, but also to fly in the sky and go and help those that are feeling less than. And then she encourages them to use their own physical difference as a strength. In one story specifically, in The Adventures of Cat Girl and the Spelling Bee, she does this by telling a little girl who's deaf to use sign language to win the school spelling bee. And the word that the little girl, her name is Alicia Madison, she actually spells the word bullying. And I love it when I read this book to kids because they get so into the story that they love the part where you actually learn how to spell the word bullying in sign language, and they raise their hand and go BULLYING. And every time that that happens, where you see like a sea of children, both with and without disabilities, doing that, it just warms my heart to know that I'm building inclusion in that way.
That's beautiful. As a dad with an autistic daughter, bullying is something that I worry about. So if you were talking to a parent right now whose child came to them, hey, mom, dad, I'm being bullied, what would you recommend to the parents?
I would recommend one thing, which is show them, doesn't have to be cat girl, but show them stories where they feel represented. It could be in movie form, it could be in TV form, it could be in book form. Let them know that they're not alone in these situations. Let them know that there are outlets and things that they can do that can help them kind of channel this energy. That would be number one. My mom always encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to put my heart and mind into. And so that's why I became a writer, because she instilled that in me, that even though I can't walk, I can still do anything else that I want to do. And so I think just encouraging your kids to not give up on themselves and showing them all these people that can do these incredible things. Maybe finding sources about disability history, teaching them about people from Franklin D. Roosevelt who had polio all the way down to, Stevie Wonder, who's blind, just showing them an array of people that have been able to succeed through life while having a disability, I think would be a really powerful tool to kind of help them gain the confidence that they need in situations of bullying.
You know, and I think that this falls on the parents. There is a disability community out there that kids and adults can plug into. But, when you're an adult, you can find these things out for yourself. But when you're a
Mhm.
kid, it requires a parent. And there are plenty of resources, at least in Miami-Dade County, lots of resources where kids with disabilities or siblings of kids with disabilities, they can plug in. So what are you plugged into?
I'm plugged into literally everything. I go to events probably at least once a week. I try to get involved with everything that has to do with disability and inclusion. I support the Sabrina Cohen Adaptive Beach Days every
Hmm.
month. I make sure that I go to that. Because I love the beach. I actually was able to work with the Sunny Isles municipality and do a little beach day back in August.
Mm.
We partnered with a great organization called Surfers Healing.
I know them. Yes, yes. I've
Yeah.
seen their website or
Yeah,
socials.
it's amazing. They actually started their their journey focused on helping kids within the autism spectrum get into the water and go surfing. And now they've expanded to all disabilities. So it was really, really fun to partner with them and go surfing. I had only
Mhm.
done surfing maybe once or twice before then. So it was very fun to do it again. I also love getting involved with other adaptive sports activities. I did sled hockey this past month as well, and that was really fun. And I had never, even though I grew up in New York, I had never had this sensation of sliding on ice.
Mm.
So that was a really cool.
This is at the Panther Arena, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it was very fun. So just getting involved in different activities, and also I know like has a great rehab center
Hmm.
called the Lynn Rehab, and they are always putting on events. I get notifications all the time, and I try to go to as many of those as possible. There's so many different avenues that you can take as a parent where you can get your children involved in these adaptive sports activities or w- reading clubs or whatever it is that they enjoy, art, and you can basically find anything.
Miami-Dade County is blessed with just a ton of resources, but I've talked to parents, I talked to an autism grandma,
Mm,
and she'd never heard of the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, which I thought,
mm.
how is that possible? Because this is a big resource, and yet people don't know about it. And if you don't know about it, it might as well not exist.
Wow.
So all these different activities that you're taking part of, how would a parent get informed about them?
Um, I would. just hopefully the newspaper will highlight it, and great shows like yours will highlight these events. But also, I think just networking
Hmm.
and trying to maybe get into support groups that maybe talk about what it's like to be a parent of
Hmm.
a child within the disability community, whether it's autism or so on. And I'm sure they can highlight some upcoming events.
They do. In fact, I'm in a group called Just for Dads. It's Autism Dads. It's held at once a month. And I love it. I put it off for the longest time because I'm a man. Like, I don't need to do that, whatever. I finally go. I was like, this is great. I had a great time. Like, guys will bring beer and pizza, and we just, like, we'll tell our stories. And then if we have any, like, anything we're having problems with, Dr. Michael Alessandri,
Yeah.
he is the executive director of CARD. He facilitates the dads group, and he'll help us through everything. And about 80% of the conversation, honestly, is like insurance. They don't want to pay. But what's nice about it is that when you're in a group like this, is that you're not alone, and there's a lot of help out there. Like
Yeah.
Dr. Michael is a huge help, but the help, it might as well not exist if you don't plug in, and you just got to plug in. Like plug yourself in. So it's good that you do it. And that would be like my advice to parents. Like, it's all out there, but just Google it. And if you don't go, it might as well not exist.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to Sabrina Cohen, because I've actually reached out to her, trying to get her on the podcast. Maybe this will be the conversation that gets her out here. So tell me about these adaptive beach days.
So adaptive beach days are really cool. It's a chance for people with and without disabilities to come together and just enjoy everything that South Florida has to offer, which is the beautiful beach. And which again is a huge part for me of what inclusion is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just building ramps, it's about showing that we belong where we're going. So that's something that I love about it, because everyone that's volunteering there is so kind and so willing to help people of all disabilities. Again, it's not just people in wheelchairs. I've seen people who are blind. I've seen people with Down syndrome. I've seen people with walkers all join together to be a part of this event. And it's really powerful. And so, what it does is there's something called Moby mats, which are mats that are placed on the sand that help create accessibility for people with mobility issues to have access to the beach. But in addition to that, she places down, or her foundation places down decks, which are larger mats that, if you put them together, they create a whole space for the people that are there to have, to just sit and wait their turn to go into the water. And how those of us with mobility issues go into the water is they have these wonderful floating wheelchairs that
I've seen those,
are
yes, with the big
able
wheels.
to go
Yes,
into
yes.
the water. And so it's really, really interesting. And she has it every last Sunday of the month between April and November.
I've not been yet. We've got to stay in touch because I want to go.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go to this next one,
Yeah.
we'll definitely meet up there.
That would be wonderful.
That'd be so cool. Now, we talked about the community. What year did you move to Miami?
I moved in February of 2005.
Oh, so 20 years ago.
Yes.
How have you seen Miami evolve in terms of disability awareness and inclusion in those 20 years?
Well, as I said, it came as a shock to me that there were so many opportunities, because growing up in the small town that I grew up in New York, I was told for most of the field trips that my schools would go on or my summer camps would go on that I was a liability and that I should not attend these field trips unless my mom was going to take me and accompany me throughout. So I had never been to a water park until I moved to Miami, because I was always told that I was a liability and that I couldn't go. I didn't go on many of my class trips because of that reason. So just having this sense of inclusion and seeing so many more people with different disabilities, it really helped me be like, wow, the world is accepting of this. There are opportunities for all of us. So that's been a powerful thing for me.
That's incredible. Talking about accepting, you filled out a guest questionnaire to be on the podcast, and you mentioned something about a dialysis center.
Yeah.
That changed how you saw yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
So in 2007, my kidneys failed. It was kind of a long time coming. When you have spina bifida, it's always coupled with other health issues. And for me, it's weak kidneys. And so this was something that, I knew was eventually going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen at age 22, but it did. Anyway, so when that happened, I had a chip on my shoulder at the time because I was like, man, why does this have to happen now? Like, I finally have a social life. Now everything has to change. I have to change my diet. All these things. And luckily, within the first year of my treatment, I had the opportunity of meeting a man named David Katz, who was also a patient at the clinic that I was attending in Aventura. And he was a Holocaust survivor. He was in his 80s. And at the age of 16, he lost his entire family. And so, and you would think that this would like harden a person and make them feel just angry at the world. But no, he had the most pure and magical spirit and magical heart. And the first time I met him, he told me that he prays for me every day. And I was just like, wow, like that's crazy. So from there, we grew like a kinship, and we would talk every treatment and everything. And he actually was the one that encouraged me to start volunteering at Kesher. And so I always give him credit for that. He's long passed away. He passed away in 2010, but he gave me that opportunity, and that opportunity changed my life. It set me on a path of advocacy that I haven't looked back on in the last 16 years now. So so it's really amazing, and it also helped, with all of that, with meeting him, I grew a sense of gratitude for my life, even though, as I mentioned, I was kind of angry at the time. But just meeting him and hearing his story and seeing how grateful he was to be alive, it was like infectious. And I now every year celebrate something called Thank God I'm Alive Day. And I celebrate it on the day that my kidneys failed, which is May 7th. And that's my day where I can kind of be a little bad and eat whatever I want and kind of go off my renal diet for the day.
That's amazing.
So that's what I do.
So you don't seem angry anymore. You seem pretty happy.
Yes.
How do you pay that forward? That kindness that Mr. David did for you, how do you pay that forward?
I do many acts of advocacy, and I feel that that's my way of paying it forward, is educating children with my book series. I'm also the chairperson for the Commission on Disability Issues Board here in Miami-Dade. We meet once a month at the Stephen P. Clark Government Center, and we talk a lot about ways to improve things for the disability community. Our main focuses are mostly with housing accessibility and just transportation. Yes, can sometimes be a little complicated. I'll just put it that way. And so we focus a lot on helping the disability community in those two areas. And in a lot of other ways, we are actually currently working with State Representative Basabe. I think that's how you say his last name. We are working towards getting all beaches to be accessible throughout Miami-Dade because the ADA states that all places, including beaches, should be accessible. And unfortunately, there are still areas of beaches in Miami-Dade County that don't have those special Moby mats. There are many in South Beach. I think every other beach has it, to be honest with you. But when you go further north, there's only one in Sunny Isles, which I advocated for during my year of Miss Wheelchair Florida. And also, I was able to get two in Ball Harbor and two additional ones in Bayside. No, I'm sorry, Surfside. So that's that's been my contribution so far when it comes to beach accessibility. But I would like to see every beach accessible because I think that that's a huge step forward for inclusion for everyone.
I've seen these mats on South Beach. Would you say that South Beach is a model for how things should be done?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how do we get the other municipalities to be compliant? You have to sue them? Like, how does that work?
I don't really believe in going the suing route.
Me neither.
There are many people with disabilities that are like, that's the only way to get things done. I don't believe that. I choose to be a diplomatic person and I choose to speak to them and show them the importance of these things. That is why, as I mentioned, I was able to work with the Sunny Isles municipality to get our very own adaptive beach day back in August. So, and that was kind of to commemorate disability Pride Month, which happens in July. So we had it a week later, but it was still a really powerful event, and we will be having it every year to celebrate Disability Pride Month.
So, looking at all of your accomplishments, which is the one you're most proud of?
My books.
Your books.
My books were really the first step forward to me owning my disability and showing it to the world. I can't tell you how many times I wheel into a classroom and kids are just like, oh my God, she's in a wheelchair. And so I'll ask them, how does this make you feel? And the response is always the same. They feel sad. They feel sorry for me. They feel scared. They feel worried. They want to know what happened. All these negative things. And I'm just like, okay, no judgment. And I read my book. And then afterwards, I pose the same question. And they're like, you are so cool. Does your chair fly too? Where's your magical button? I want to see it. So just knowing that within that 10 minutes, I was able to shift their perspective from one of fear and pity to one of admiration and excitement is just, it's so fulfilling to me every time. Like it does not get old. And not only that, but seeing kids with disabilities later on, remember me years later or say, I wrote a book report about Cat Girl in the second grade. Like, it's wild to me. It's so amazing. So that would be my number one thing that I will always put above all the rest. Like, I know I have a list of awards that have been given to me, proclamations and Miss Wheelchair Florida and so on, but nothing can beat that feeling.
That's beautiful. When you talk about owning your disability, what does that mean to you?
I think just wheeling, for me, it means wheeling into a room and knowing that I belong and knowing that I bring something unique and something special to it and just feeling confidence in everything that I do.
That's beautiful. Now, when you're talking to parents of kids with disabilities, like, because when one person's got a disability, we've all got it. Like
Yeah.
my daughter's autistic, we all have to work around that. So what do you tell the parents?
I always bring up the magical tree story that my mom told me,
Beautiful story.
which I'll briefly share with you. So at the age of 4, I asked my mom why I'm the only person in my entire family, youngest of 7, why I'm the only one in a wheelchair. And she told me this beautiful story that has stuck with me throughout my life, that the spine is like a magical tree that helps you move your arms and legs because it has these little magical leaves on it called nerves, and they send the message to your brain on what to move. And she mentioned that I was missing some of my magical leaves, so I couldn't move my legs. But she went on to say that in spite of that, I could still do anything that I put my heart and mind into. And that has been my driving force throughout life. And so I would tell parents that they don't necessarily have to tell the magical tree story if it doesn't apply to what their child has, but maybe come up with a unique way to tell their children about their disability and have that conversation and encourage them that even though you have this difference, you can still do anything you put your heart and mind into. I think that's a really powerful message that all parents should be instilling in all their kids, whether they have a disability or not. But specifically for the disability community, that is a powerful message to give.
I'll say with my own daughter is you really can't have a conversation with her. You can tell her things, but like a conversation, you can't have it. But her autism has never been a secret. It's never going to be a secret. It's part of the conversation. It's a normal thing. We don't try to hide it. And because I've talked to parents that are older, and you read books also. There was a time when you hid it, but there's nothing to hide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to have these conversations, and just it is what it is, right? Now, I just got the 2-minute warning, so we're winding down here. What I want to ask you about as well is you're the youngest of 7.
Yes.
My little boy, he's 6, and my daughter's 8. And he's already big brothering his older sister, which is super. He's very protective of her. What was the dynamic with you and your 6 brothers and sisters?
Honestly, I think it's been split down the middle of half of my family falls under the enabler category where they just wanted to do everything for me. And then there's the do-it-yourselfers, is what I call them, which are the people that are like, listen, you can reach for that yourself. You can bend down and get it yourself. Like, I don't need to help you. And so I've always obviously liked the enablers because they made my life easy, but I also really use the do-it-yourselfers as like a force of like, okay, I'm going to prove to them that I can do this. I can, and even though it was split, all of them had this sense of, I want to include her in activities. So they would make sure that whatever game we were playing, whatever, sport they were playing, they would always try to include me in the games that they would play in the backyard or in the street or whatever. Like I said, we lived in a small town. We lived down like a cul-de-sac area, so you could play in the street at that time, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was a very safe thing. So, and they would always want to include me in games. So that was one thing that I grew up feeling, accepted by all of them, even though they had that split down the middle.
My daughter, she's not very high support needs, but she does need some support. But my wife and I, we're both in the camp of do it yourself as much as possible. There's some things that she can do for herself, but the things that she can, and we always try to push the envelope a little bit of what she can do for herself. Kat, I've got 5 last questions I want to ask you before we wrap it up. First question is, what's one moment that made you stop and say, this is exactly why I do this work?
I think the most magical thing that I've seen is in one of my Cat Girl presentations. I was told by the school that there was a child that had spina bifida and that he was very shy and he wasn't able to make friends. So, of course, they pointed him out to me when I came in, and I had him sit next to me and I had him be my special helper. And by the end of my reading Cat Girl, his reaction was to start talking and socialize, and he even made jokes about like how his chair was cooler than mine. And so that always stuck with me because I really loved, again, to see that transition of how I was able to empower someone with a disability to feel comfortable and open up and be themselves. And now I saw him many years later. He's on like a wheelchair basketball team and he's thriving and he's doing all this really cool stuff. So that's something that I love and that really stands out to me.
Great. Definitely the do-it-yourself camp there. Great. Okay. Second question is, what's the biggest misconception people still have about disability or inclusion?
I think the biggest misconception that they have about disability is that we're all home sitting around and complaining about our lots in life. And that could not be further from the truth with the people that I surround myself with and who I am as a person. We love to go out and be involved in activities and do things. I just went to the Miami Marlins versus New York Mets game last Sunday. And as a New Yorker, I was very upset that the Mets lost, but my friend was laughing. He's like, "You live in Miami now, you got to cheer for the Marlins." So, but we love to do things. We love to go out. Personally, I love going to sports games. I love going to concerts. So that's the biggest misconception, is that we're like angry at the world and that we just sit around complaining and victimizing ourselves. That's not true. And as far as the second part was inclusion, as I mentioned, I think that the importance of the ADA needs to be more amplified.
I agree.
Because there are still many business owners that will mumble under their breath that they don't like the ADA or that it's a stupid law or that they don't want to make these accommodations. And I think that that needs to be addressed. I think that we need to keep fighting for our rights and educating people on the importance of these rights.
You know, we still have a way to go, but I think that Miami-Dade County is definitely heading that direction. For example, I had on the vice mayor of Coral Gables. They have an ADA board. I'm on the Citizens Advisory Board of South Miami. So these municipalities, that they're very proactive about it. So, which is great. So we're headed in the right direction.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. For sure. I think that Miami is actually a really good example of what can be done for the disability community, as far as giving us all these different choices of activities that are targeted for us, but also giving us accessibility to do things that might not be targeted for us. Again, like attending concerts and attending Marlins games.
Or just going to the beach.
There's full accessibility in so many places. And so I love that about Miami, how they're very much proactive in making sure that that's the case.
They sure are. Okay. Third question. What's a project or idea you're most excited to bring to life?
Well, currently I am working on 2 projects that I'm really excited about. The first is I'm working with 2 incredible advocates, Hector Del Valle and Daniel Ruiz, on creating a book that will allow children with all different disabilities to tell their stories, because that is a very underserved community. There are many stories for kids with disabilities, but never have we heard them tell their own stories. So the project is called Imagine That: Stories of Different Walks of Life, and it's going to be 12 stories written by the child or their parent, just telling their life story, telling what life has been like for them up until this point. And we want kids between the ages of 5 and 12 to participate. We also will have a separate section for children that fall under the teenage label, so 13 to 17. We would like them to write a little something or draw a little something, depending on, and this goes for all of them, depending on their ability set. If they're not into writing, they can send in a drawing or send in a picture of themselves with like a little caption of what they want people to know about them. So that's project number 1. Project number 2, quickly I'll tell you, is I'm working towards getting The Adventures of Catgirl into an animated series for Netflix.
Awesome. That's great.
And I actually have a meeting this coming Friday about
Congratulations.
the planning stage of how to get that done,
I'll
all
be
the
praying for
marketing
you.
and everything.
That's
So
great.
I'm really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
4th question, Kat. If someone wants to help your mission today, what's the single most meaningful thing they can do?
I would love to encourage all people that are listening to, if you want to learn more about my mission, go on my website for my nonprofit, catgirlandfriends.com. And that's Catgirl with a K, after my name, Katherine. And they can just read all about me, and they can press that donate button, or they can order books and learn more about my books that way.
And I bought one of your books in Spanish for my daughter, so they are bilingual too.
Yes, they are.
Great.
I make sure that, because I do believe that inclusion is for everyone. So I have stories that focus on racial bullying as well. I believe that everyone should be included, not just people with varying disabilities, but those that might be targeted for being of another culture, being, overweight, whatever the case may be. I really want to fight for all people.
That's wonderful. Kat, last question is, if you had a billboard on I-95, it could say any message you wanted, what would it be?
I think inclusion is for everyone would be my number one message that I would want to really show people, but also especially in this day and age where DEI is under attack, but we won't get too political. But I think that that's a big message. And I think also just showing your supposed weakness as a strength is a big thing for me as well. Again, with the magical tree story, that was me being taught to show my strengths. Even though I have a disability, I can still do anything else. So I think that's a powerful message too. So be one of those two.
You're very fortunate that at 4 years old, your mother had a great story for you and a wonderful one you can take through life with you.
Yeah. I asked her recently, I'm like, did you make that up on the fly, or did you plan that? Like, because you knew the question was coming? She's like, I knew the question was coming eventually. She's like, I didn't think it was going to come at 4 years old. I thought it'd be later on, but you were always a very insightful little girl. She's like, but yes, I did make it up on the fly. Like, just didn't, like, it came to me as soon as you asked the question.
That's wonderful. Well, Katherine, let's go ahead and turn to the camera and sign off.
Yes.
So this has been the Autism Podcast with Kat Magnoli. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.